Hey there, I'm Mark.
I'm Evan.
And on this week's episode of the Something to Prove podcast, we talk about Evan's Cheers theme.
I hate the Cheers song.
We also talk about, as entrepreneurs, are we too controlling? Do we create toxic environments? Do we hire the wrong people? Are we bad bosses?
Yeah, it's a good episode.
Wow. We are off to a great start this morning, aren't we?
How's that?
I didn't have time to raise my laptop. I'm all.
Listen, Mark, we set the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had it in my calendar at 11:30. So you have no idea how this week has been. It's been
the best.
It's been bananas.
Okay.
Like I have clients. It's so crazy. I have clients emailing me, like saying like, "What's going on?" Like that's how buried I am right now.
That's how I felt this morning when Mark was 8 minutes late.
Yeah. So just so everyone knows on the podcast, Evan is a stickler for starting on time. I actually bragged in last week's episode about the fact I got there 12 minutes early, how you weren't there, how I was waiting, and I was like all ready to go. I had lighting up. I had my thing done. And then Evan's in California right now, so this 3-hour time difference. We agreed to 10:30 Eastern time. For some reason, I had it scheduled for 11:30. I shaped my whole day around this, to be honest with you. So
I'm going from here to the airport. So this is how important Something to Prove podcast is, friends.
But the nice thing is, Evan said, "We on?" You gave me a minute. You gave me 1 minute. He said, "We on?" And then it was followed with "Yo," and then it's like, "K, not sure what happened. Hope you're okay." I like that you went there. Like you were probably angry. You're probably frustrated, but part of you was probably like, "Oh man, Mark is usually so punctual. Hopefully something didn't go wrong." At least that's what I'm hoping you were acting like.
Well, you're not usually late for things, so yeah, I was just more like, all right, something either he forgot or something must have happened. Like, okay, hope you're okay. I was all set to pack up and get to the airport, but we're squeezing it in. Something to prove. So let's talk about why you're so stressed out, Mark.
Why I'm so stressed out? It's just busy. It's like literally just volume of work relative to hours that I'm awake. So, it's one of those like show up nice and early at work in back-to-backs and work all day, go home, feed the kids, work at night, get up the next day, start again.
That's your life.
No, it's so busy right now though that like that things are getting held up. Like I have something I was supposed to do last Friday that I still haven't had a chance to start yet. And I was hoping this morning I was actually going to jump on it next at 10:30. I was going to jump on it. I don't even know if I'm going to get it to today. And so I'll probably have to do it over the weekend because it's already a week late. And this is client work. This isn't anything work. This is literally, it's a week late because I'm supposed to do it and I haven't done it yet.
Wait, is it for my, like, am I the client?
No. This is not you. If this was a you, I would have just been like, dude, it's not happening. No, this is a real client. This is a real client. This is This is important stuff.
Wow.
Hey, dude, I spent a lot of time this week on TDS.
Okay, good.
Did you not see the emails that Alex and I went back and forth, me chasing the dude?
I don't want to see emails of people chasing each other.
Okay. We had a conversation in the AM. I drafted a new page for you that afternoon. I sent it to Alex. He didn't respond. So I called him and said, look at this page. And he was like, I guess so. And then I think at 5 p.m. it went to my team. At 8 p.m. the page had been built.
Nice.
And we sent it to him for approval the next morning, and I waited a full day, and then the page went live the next day, even though he hadn't seen it yet because we made the page go live anyway.
All right.
Yeah. So
new Fanta in the house. Look at that.
We're trying here. But anyway, that's all me. How is LA going? You came here to teach, you came here to learn, you came here to get connected to creative-minded entrepreneurial folk. How's it going, man?
Are we moving on? Are we moving past Mark and his stressful life?
Yeah.
How he handles it and dealing with adversity and.
Listen, You need to just work harder and work smarter and work faster. You listen to Evan, be willing to let the little things drop.
But what's so different? You're just getting more client work than expected?
No, it's just we're at the point in certain projects and certain processes where I would normally have other team members do it, and we're down like 2 or 3 headcount right now. So anytime that we're down headcount, everything falls on my plate. But,
did the new guy start? Did Alex start?
Monday morning he starts.
Nice.
For the last 2 weeks he's been getting sent work. He's been CC'd on emails. He was in this morning at 7. He's been coming in a few mornings before his other job to look at stuff and have conversations. And I cannot wait. Oh, it is. He is so good. He's so good. He's already the way that he is so good.
I think that smile on your face is bigger than 8-year-old Mark Drager on Christmas morning.
Yeah. My life Monday is about to get a lot better.
I love it, dude. That's great. Cool.
Yeah.
Big moves.
Yeah. LA.
I'm here.
Great. You said you don't look excited at all.
I'm tired.
Yeah. Because Nina wasn't there to save you from staying up super late talking to entrepreneurs and pouring your heart and soul into them, getting a fever, getting sick, not eating.
I did better this year. So Nina was here until 2 days ago. She stayed with me. I came here a week early because I got to do the Jordan Belfort's podcast.
I like that little correction. I got to. I like that.
Language is important.
Yes.
I met Jay Abraham. I met Dave Meltzer. I met Ryan Blair. I met Casey Adams. Who else? It's crazy. It's been nonstop. And then I went into the Vid Summit, which then becomes its own crazy beast of 2 full days of nonstop YouTube entrepreneur fiesta.
Yeah. What did you learn? What happened? Anything fun? If it's just, your agenda sounds great, but give us some Evan energy.
So listen, I'm proud of myself.
Okay.
Because both nights I left pretty early. I didn't do the big party thing at night on the first night.
Mm-hmm.
And then last night I left even a little bit. I left before the event even ended, like before the closing part. Nice. I just felt like I've given enough.
You feel like you did what you came to do.
Yeah. It's like, this is enough. This is good. Yeah, I felt really good. Like, this is a good close. I'm very happy with myself right now. So I'm going to go.
I like it.
That's what's in my head. And then I went home and I talked to Nina, and then I watched the League of Legends World Championships. Stayed up too late watching that. And then woke up to do this.
Very cool. Very cool. I wanted to follow up on one thing that I said in last week's podcast episode.
Okay.
So in last week's episode, I was talking about how I got up at 4 a.m., came in, prep for that meeting that I wasn't happy with, crushed it. I got to share this story. So I was upset last Thursday that I skipped the gym to do that work. And I was a little bit angry with myself for doing so because, my weight loss has slowed down and I feel like I'm plateauing and I need to set new goals and new targets and all this stuff. Anyway, so Friday morning, I go in at 5:30 and we're doing this kind of special workout where you start on the treadmill at an incline of 2, and then every minute it goes up 1 incline to 15. And then every minute it goes back down, and you're supposed to run it. Right? So you're supposed to run starting at whatever, your pace is. And you're supposed to every minute that goes by, it gets harder and harder and harder to the top. And then every minute that goes by after that, it gets easier and easier and easier. And then you end with like a crazy run. That morning, first of all, I'm not really a runner. I'm not really great at this stuff, but I got through it, right? Like I ran pretty quick, and then I had to I'm gonna go to an incline of 10 before I walk. So I go to the incline, I hit 10. I'm like, I gotta walk, and then I went like minute on, minute off of running and walking. But it's 5:30. I haven't had coffee. I'm still on my fast. I'm tired. I work, all of this stuff. So I'm leaving, and I'm like, well, they only do this workout twice a year, and I'm like, I'm not gonna remember any of the strategy next time this workout happens. Like, I'm not going to remember how I would attack it differently. So I'm working all day and this and that. And Jacqueline comes home and she's like, oh, I'm going to go to the 315. So I'm like, I think I should go back. I should go back and do it again. And she's like, no. And I was like, no, I really want to try it again. I want to attack this again. And she's just like, this is crazy. Like, you're going to hurt yourself. Don't. Because it's already like a really hard workout. And I'm like, yeah, but imagine how awesome it would be. Like, imagine how cool it would be if I did it twice in a day. Most people skip this day and I can do it twice. So I'm like fooling around on the app, and I was like, well, let me see how many people are there, because you can book your class on the app. So I go ahead and I'm like, oh, look. So I hit book, and I'm like, booked. It's like 12 minutes before the class. I'm like, look, I got in. And I'm like, but this is terrifying. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to cancel. My wife's like, you can't cancel.
Right.
Like, they have rules. Like, you just booked. If you cancel, you'll pay a cancellation fee.
Hey, hold on. Screw their rules. Your rules. Jesus Christ. Can't cancel because of their rules. What the heck?
So then you should have seen my face, though, when this struck me, where it's like, it went from me being like, hey, like, I like idea, right? I'm all excited about it. This is going to be great. What if I was the type of person capable of doing this? To suddenly being like, it's all like lands on me. It's like, I have to do this now.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I have to do this. So, and then I started getting all nervous and freaked out. But anyway, it was amazing. It was so good. I ran further. I ran faster. I crushed it on the treadmill. I ran all the way up to 15 rather than walking at 10. I only walked for a minute. Then I ran the whole way back down. And I was so jazzed. I was so jazzed up to be able to do this. I underestimated the second half of the workout and forgot how hard that one was, which really, I had no energy for that. But yeah. So then when we're walking out, my wife's like, what's your next goal? Right? Like, I've been talking about doing 2 in a day for a long time, or even 2 classes back to back. And she's like, so what's next? And I was like, I don't know. I got to set a new goal. But mostly I was really like, I'm the best. Come on. What kind of crazy person would do 2 of these in a day? Even the instructor was like, you already did one this morning. Like, she couldn't, and she's a tough woman. She could not believe it. So that made me proud.
Yeah, this is a new Mark Drager, ladies and gentlemen. You're witness. This podcast is really the evolution of Mark Drager.
But I still think that I'm proud of the outcome. I mean, I'm proud of the effort. I was there, but mostly I was. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not sure what I'm proud of, but I was proud that I did it.
You're proud of yourself, is what you're proud of. It's the evolution of Mark Drager. This is it.
Yeah. Yep. Need to set new goals now. I was able to do that. So. What's next? Anyway, I wanted to share that because I talked about last week, being upset about not hitting the gym. Well, the next day I did 2 in a row, so I made up for it.
It's a humble brag.
No, I'm not. It's not a humble brag at all. I'm totally bragging.
It's just a brag. All right. Who is this Mark Drager, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah.
Mark Kanye Drager in the house. Here we go.
Yeah. I need to be able to take the I can conquer it. Confidence. I can push through. I can do it. Even if I'm feeling terrible or didn't sleep. Tuesday, I didn't sleep at all. I slept like 4 hours, but I still showed up and I phoned it in. But I was like, no, Evan says it's enough for me to be here. So I'm here at least. Most people wouldn't show up with only 4 hours sleep. Mm-hmm. So I did it, worked to make myself proud. I need to try and figure out how to extend this to all other areas of my life. But
it's already happening.
I think that's for a different podcast.
No, but it's already happening. It's already happening. This is what it looks like. Every time you do it.
We'll see. I still had a terribly depressing Monday, Thanksgiving Monday. So,
it's already happening.
Friday, Jack and I went out for date night, and I was like so hyper from this second run I did that I was just like talking the way I talk now, like super manic, super excited. The future is ours. We can do anything. Saturday, Sunday was great with family, and then Monday, I totally crashed. It was, yeah. I was like,
and here you are Friday, all excited again.
Well, a little bit on edge of those people who have so many newspapers and so much stuff in their house that they all fall over and they get crushed and then they get buried by their own stuff. That's how I feel about the amount of work we have to do right now.
You'll do it. You're Mark Drager. That's how you felt when you went back and booked the second episode for your workout.
Yeah, second class. Right.
And then you crushed it. So that's what Mark Drager does.
Mm-hmm. That's what I tell myself.
See? Oh, look at that. It's already applying to other areas of your life.
Wow. We'll see. Anyway.
You can't help it. It's called momentum, Mark. It's called momentum.
Brilliant. Here's what I I just need to make sure. On a side note, no, haven't heard anything back from that client that I'm supposed to speak to in a few minutes. Okay. So here's what I wanted to talk to you about this week. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, great. So quick backstory. I followed this podcast and entrepreneur for maybe 10 years. Releases a podcast, runs this great magazine and publication. And I've always been impressed with the style, with his thinking, with how cool he is, the way he runs his business and all this stuff. And so
we build it or something?
No, this is someone else. I won't mention who it is because the things are about to take a turn. But yeah. So I've always really felt like I've learned a lot, that I've always looked up to what they're doing, their speed, their pace, how they can work. And then, so I'm listening, I fell back on podcasts, and suddenly I'm listening to the podcast back from a few months ago. Suddenly, like, the guy's not on the podcast. He's like the CEO, founder, entrepreneur of the company. He's been running for 20 years. And suddenly, this other person's there and saying, oh, we have to have a serious note. As it turns out, his working style was very aggressive, very command and control. People felt like they were belittled, like they were brought in to do one thing, sold the exterior version of a culture, but then the culture wasn't lived within the organization. That everyone who worked there was there so that way this entrepreneur could pursue their dreams, their passions, and stay happy. Like, your job is to keep me happy. And so, like, these blog posts started coming up from people over the years who just talked about what a terrible workplace it was, but it projected this amazing thing, and how this plays into subtle racism, sexism, and just work culture. They called it a toxic work culture. And so the CEO has to step down, they have to step back, they have to do all of these things. But I'm reading these blog posts, these articles, partially because, I've been following this person for 10 years. Part of me goes like, well, this is just what being an entrepreneur is about. And then the other part of me, like, the hair on the back of my neck is standing up, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if I do this. I wonder if as entrepreneurs we go like, well, this is what being an entrepreneur is about. You have to be fast, you have to be lean, you have to work hard. A lot is expected of you. You might be hired for one job, and then I'm going to put you on a different job. I want to change direction. I don't have to come to you and ask your permission to change direction. I'm changing direction. You're with me or against me. Like, part of me as the entrepreneur goes, this is what entrepreneurship is. And the other part of me goes like, ooh, I wonder from a culture point of view, as we're growing and building teams as leaders, how hard we are on the people that we work with, and what is acceptable or not. That, like, this whole week I've been thinking about that, because, the move for entrepreneurship, like a lot of the stuff you talk about and push and preach, isn't to be against people or mean to people, but it's about, having, being forward thinking and having a vision and pursuing your passions, making sure people align with you, but you expect a lot of the people you work with. Do you think that as entrepreneurs, people are signing up to be part of something where there's just going to be higher levels of aggression or command and control or drive or push? Or do you think as entrepreneurs, we should be really worried or careful about this as we're building out our teams and culture?
I think it has to be a positive intent for your customers and for your team.
But you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, yeah. I mean, you haven't read the article, you're not familiar with the story, but
he doesn't have positive intent for his team.
When I'm silent, I'm always like letting you go on usually. And then I have to go later through the edit and cut out all the silent pauses of me waiting for you to continue.
I appreciate the permission to keep going. No, that's all it is. It's, you want your people to win, and it has to start with the positive intent. And if you have the positive intent, then it's about, are you executing in a way that fits both them and your company? So it may be that you hired people who, it's a clash of personalities, a clash of values. It's not going to be a good fit. Even though you have positive intent, it's not going to be a good fit because they can't keep up, because they don't value speed, because they don't want new challenges, because they're always afraid of new things. So it's just not going to be a fit with you, even though you have lots of positive intent to help them. People that see how Alex and I interact. They might think that it's like super aggressive or whatever, however they're going to judge it. Or I mean, super compassionate at other times too, but it's exactly what Alex needs in the moment when we're working together. If I've just photocopied that to everybody who I worked with, it wouldn't work because it's not what they need at that moment. So it sounds like the problem with this guy was he just didn't have positive intent towards the team. It's an ego culture for him to build something. I could still look at that and say, you respected what he stood for from a position in what you thought that he stood for. Great. Go build that. It's your whole operations has to rise to the level of marketing effectiveness or whatever you say.
Yeah.
Say it.
The line?
Yeah.
Is that don't dumb down marketing to make up for bad operations. Make bold promises in marketing and then ask operations to live up to those promises.
Is that it? I feel like you said it better before.
Maybe, but you're putting me on the spot. The thing that I find most interesting about it is as entrepreneurs or even leaders, I think most of us either lean ego from the outside world or lean, what's the opposite of ego? Like, it's not even selfless. It's like we're down on ourselves, right? Like either we're very confident people about what we want to do, the vision we have, and we want to make it happen that way. People are with us or against us, or we're more collaborative, but it's really like we're unsure. We don't quite articulate it well. We're not really maybe the best, strongest vision setters or leaders. And so the people who tend to rise up tend to be a little bit more charismatic, tend to be a little bit more clear, tend to be a little bit more controlling. And so, if I watched you and Alex working together, I would say that you're very hard on him, that there may not be any reason to even be that hard on him. When he and I are in a conversation with you at the same time, or even when Jeremy's there, like you pit us, you pit us against one another with this weird level of competition that doesn't even really exist. And so there are things that even you do where I'm like, okay, like maybe not my style or whatnot, but I guess I don't know why this bothers me. It worries me or bothers me because I think that you need to have a tremendous amount of vision, dedication, control, and hard work to be able to actually make a business work. And at the same time, I think that a lot of people would misconstrue that as being toxic or being negative or asking too much of people or being bad or whatever it is. So how do we do the one without being misinterpreted or even falling into trap of the other one?
Do people feel, the people on your team feel like they are in a toxic environment? And then do you have the intent? Because even if you start again with intent, do you want to create a toxic? Do you care? I mean, the fact you're even asking this question means that you care. So that's a good start.
Maybe not. Last week I talked about that on the podcast too, that like I worry I'm not a good father, and people say, well, only good fathers worry they're not good fathers, but it doesn't mean that I'm a good father all the time.
Well, okay, nobody's a good father all the time.
Right. But in this situation, the part that really struck me is I went, okay, like there's a lot of stuff that this fellow does that isn't even in my style, isn't even in my makeup, isn't something that I would even do. But there are a whole lot of other experiences that people are sharing where I go like, oh geez, like that could be me, that could be us, that could be the team. And then I work with so many entrepreneurs, and I'm like, oh, like this is an entrepreneur thing. Some of us have never worked in other organizations, and we find ourselves creating an organization like that. Some of us start very young and haven't been exposed to the right or wrong ways to do things. Like one of the things that this people complaining pointed out is that they ran a 14 to 20 person team, and there was no formal HR person, that the CEO did all HR to themselves. And I'm like, that's every company that has 14 to 20 people. Like how is this a systemic issue? And I don't know.
That's not a systemic issue.
Okay.
If you have a good HR driven CEO, you don't need an HR department to buffer between the CEO and the team.
Okay.
Like, this guy did not care about the people on his team. That's a problem. Or at least some of them. Maybe not everybody hates him. Maybe for some people it was the greatest environment of all time to work in.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing with the father, you know, when you say I'm worried that I'm not a good enough father, only good fathers would say that. It depends on the mindset coming in, because it's right of you to pause and question and think about, how can I be a better father? How can I be a better entrepreneur? Oh my gosh, his team is saying this about him. How can I be a better manager, right? That's great. It's a great pause for reflection, a great question to ask yourself, because that's forward moving, that's practical, that's applicable to making things better.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to what you're kind of rallying against from people saying, well, only a good father would say that, which means you don't have to do anything to get better. You're already good. That's why you're upset about that comment back, is because people don't want you to do any other work. So when I say the fact that so you have to keep getting better, right? You have to keep working harder. So it's great. Have pause, have reflection, but then use that to make your business better, as opposed to like sitting there worrying, oh my gosh, are all entrepreneurs like this? And this sucks. And crippling. It's like overthinking, crippling, worrying behavior that leads nowhere.
Well, so the reason why I thought maybe this is a topic for the podcast is, one, I see a lot of myself and the way that I ran the company previously. I see a lot of similarities, in terms of, we've had people who have been here for many, many, many years. And then we have junior people or new people who don't seem to fit in and kind of turn over. And I'm not an HR leading type of person. So I saw a lot of similarities. I sent it to Louis on the team and I said, you should read this. Right away, Louis was like, this is nothing like us. And I was like, no, think about it though, and look deeper and consider it as a warning sign. Like, consider this story as something that could happen to us if we didn't take things as seriously as we should. For him as a leader, for myself as a leader, because we can't control how people perceive us, whether you're outside or inside the company. You can try, but really we can't really tap into exactly how people will feel about everything. And the reason I brought it forward, and I've been thinking about it all week, is because half of me says this is what entrepreneurship is. This is what you're signing up for when you work in a startup or a small company. This seems totally acceptable to me. I don't see anything wrong with it. And then the other half of me goes, oh gosh, maybe this is totally unacceptable. The tides have changed. As leaders, we need to be better. That's the thing that I find most interesting.
Well, and the answer is always both, depending on the context, right? I mean, I think most entrepreneurs suck at hiring. Mm-hmm. Especially the first few hires, you suck at it. You don't know what you're doing. You think the person's going to come in and just relieve all your problems. Meanwhile, oh, I have to train this person, and oh, it's work. And most people who come to work at a startup, they never worked at a startup before, so they have different expectations coming in. And so there's definitely maybe not even miscommunication, just a misunderstanding for both parties of what the whole situation looks like. But then you grow and you get better. And I think companies are only getting better. I think entrepreneurial businesses are only getting better, are only getting more aware, are only improving the culture more.
Do you think that if we think about the entrepreneur character, the entrepreneur makeup, of course there's different shades and different backgrounds and different things and different focuses, but the majority of entrepreneurs are driven. They have a vision, an idea, or a certain amount of confidence in something, or they're just foolish because they believe that it'll work, and they're willing to take the chance on it. I mean, do we even really make good people leaders? Or is it better to, when I was starting, and there used to be the thought, like if we go back 10 or 15 years, maybe not in your circle, but there used to be the thought, like if you're a sales leader entrepreneur, then you need an operations person beside you. If you're an operations technical type of person, then you need someone to help with sales and marketing to be able to drive business growth. Like there's this duality that you require. Do you think any of us are really should even be focused on people leading, or do you think we should always just plan as soon as possible to have someone with a lot of heart or who understands people to be able to have them help you avoid these types of things so you can focus on the growth, the control, and all those other things.
Well, like anything else, like if you're going into basketball, should you dunk or should you take a 3-point shot? Should you focus on offense or defense? Like, what are you good at? What do you want to get better at?
You don't like this topic today, eh? It's too vague?
No, it's not that it's too vague. It's just, it's contextual.
Right. So we can't have an abstract conversation about this.
Well, for somebody, if it's you, we could talk about it. If it's to the audience in generalities, well, what are you good at?
But it is me, but it's all of us, right? You know, like the reason why this has stuck with me all week is because it is that warning sign of like, oh man, like part of this is us, and we need to get better, and we are getting better, and you know, making Louis the COO and all of these types of changes we're trying to do are actually proactively correcting all these things that. But when I think big picture, when I think in terms of our audience of people who have teams or growing teams who want to have teams, we just, you know, like it's the rules that you learn over time. Like no one will work as hard as you, so you can't expect them to. If you're a self-starter, most employees are not self-starters, so you can't expect them to be self-starters. You know, if you're able to work without any direction at all, a lot of people kind of require some direction because they can't read your mind. And so, you know, we hear all of these entrepreneurs always stand up and just complain, like, you can't find any good people. No one cares, you know, people only do it for the money, but it's because they're just really bad at this stuff. Right.
That's such a losing mindset.
We hear it all the time. I hear it all the time from lots of people.
Listen, if that's you,
that's not
you're
me.
Losing. No. Listeners, if that's you, if you've told yourself that whatever Mark just said, that verbal diarrhea that came out of his face, that you're losing. If you're telling yourself that, you're losing. It's a losing mind. It doesn't mean you're a loser. It's a losing mindset.
Okay.
I had a guy yesterday at the Vid Summit, because I split up my channels, right? We went from one channel on YouTube,
right.
9 or something.
Huge mistake.
And no, like my next test is I'm going to test even splitting up more. Anyway, this guy comes up to me and he says, hey, it was such a smart thing you did to split up your channels, because if one channel goes away, you've got these other 8 that you've got to have as your backup.
Okay.
Like, dude, that is such a losing mindset. That factored zero into why I split up my channel.
That's a
zero
mindset right there. That's a Mark Drager point of view.
That's a losing mindset. If you're out there telling yourself that there's no good people, you're losing. You're losing.
Mm-hmm.
You got to stop that.
Mm-hmm.
Just because most people may not be a fit for your company, great. There's people who are an awesome fit for your company. Go find those guys. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. You're doing something that's impossible.
You know what I've always found interesting? You know, there've always been a few key people on my team at any given time that have acted as a partner without being a partner. You know, like they care as much or more maybe even than I care about certain things or the business or this or that. And even when people work for really big companies, it always impresses me how seriously they take their job. Like, you know, they'll complain about culture, they'll complain about company, they'll complain about this and this, but they take so much sense of pride and responsibility for their actual work. And as an entrepreneur, I always thought like no one will care as much as I do about this. So if you're just on the topic of good people, not only are there good people out there, but even another mindset that people fall into is like, well, you know, you have to be an owner to care that much. And it's not actually true. But anyway, there's a little side note.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a minority of people, but yes, finding people becomes the game if you want to scale a business.
It's the whole game.
I didn't see the whole game, but it becomes the game. If you want to scale a company, because you can only do so much yourself.
Right.
So you either tell yourself the world's full of these people who are selfish and complain and are toxic, or no, there's amazing people who I care about, who I want to work with, and we want to go change the world together. Go find those people.
And so how much do you think is actually appropriate? Maybe this question doesn't even matter, but how much do you think is appropriate where the company should be a vehicle for who you are and what you want to do and what you want to accomplish? You know, like I think WeWork ran into some problems with this, right? Where, you know, privately held company growing like crazy, you know, the CEO can do kind of what they want, to run it the way that they want, however they want, to achieve the results that they want. It's perfectly acceptable to the people who are aware of it and knew about it, but suddenly they want to go public and all of these things get found out, and it's like he has to step down and all of these issues are bad. And it's like, that's you know what, maybe that's the thing that bothers me. It's the difference between what us entrepreneurs thinks is acceptable and somehow the very structured world outside doesn't. Like, I don't see anything wrong with saying, you know, we're hiring you for this company, you're in this role, we're going this direction, and then a year later saying, you know what, we're not going to go that direction, we're going to go a different direction. And I want to bring you along for the ride, and I want your help in all these things, but I don't have to come and ask your permission to make these changes, you know. But to the outside world, that seems like a dictatorship or,
well, listen,
brutal or terrible or whatever.
A benevolent dictatorship changes the world.
Yes, go on. You're proud of yourself.
I am.
I can see it in your eyes.
I'm less concerned with the outside world and more concerned with what's actually happening in the company. Mm-hmm. You could say the exact same thing. Like that whole idea of asking permission for some people would cause a giant problem. And for others, it'd be, yeah, let's go. I'm pumped. Like Ray on my team, we're working through the 6,000 thumbnails. We finally found a new thumbnail design that crushes. And so now he's going back and I'm doing split tests we have 137 split tests right now outstanding that he's doing all at the same time. And then I found another new one that is beating my first one. Like the one that he's now going through an update, we found something that even beats that.
Yes.
And so he's like, this is so exciting. Should I go off and update all these other ones that I just fixed? It's like, Grace is saying, everything you just did, we have to redo all of them all over again, times 6,000, right? After he just finished doing all of these ones. And he's so excited to do it. Where somebody else would be, and I told him, actually, no, like, let's do some small tests first before you go crazy on it. Like, I'm paring him down from going off.
Yeah. I really like that idea. That's great.
What?
I love the energy. I love the enthusiasm, the excitement.
Right,
the fact that he loves his job so much that he's ready to redo work that he just did.
Exactly. But that's part of the culture, right? Working with me requires massive change always. And what I said a week ago maybe changes this week because either I changed my mind or we found new data. And that's part of the ride that you come on, and it's fun for some people. For other people, it's not. It's like, I just did 400 thumbnails. You want me to redo all of them? Are you kidding me? Right? And I have empathy for that person.
Okay.
You're just not going to be a fit to work with me.
Okay. You know, we had a situation like that maybe a month ago. You know, on your website, you have something like 1,400 blog posts from like a long time ago.
Okay.
So everything was migrated over digitally, but I found out, I think in August, that a formal QA hadn't been done on every single post. And so I said to the team, we have to do a formal QA. Like, someone has to literally click every single link, check every single thing, make sure everything is correct. You can do so much with AI, but we need to make sure everything is actually correct. Someone has to see this. And so someone on the team ran the numbers to say like, oh, that's, you know, if someone can do, you know, every 2 minutes, one post, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, yeah, okay. I'm like, cool. So it'll take someone 44 hours or whatever it added up to. I'm like, okay, great. Let's go. And they're like, but that's a lot of work. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Awesome. Let's go. It just wasn't an option. That reminds me of your, it's the opposite though, of your 6,000 thumbnails that have to get changed and someone who's ready to drop on it.
Yeah. That's loser thinking for working at Fanta.
Yeah.
This is what you need. And it's not that somebody is necessarily going to be super jazzed about 44 hours of manual labor to go through, but somebody who cares about the client and cares about the project and cares about what we're trying to do here. Like, okay.
Yep.
Somebody who doesn't, as their default plan is to calculate and come up with some justification for not doing it instead of all that time you spent. Great. How much time did you spend calculating this? If it takes you 2 minutes to do each one, you could have already done 40 posts.
Yep.
Like that person is not a fit for Fanta.
I totally agree. And yep.
But that's the process. But at the same time, you could still love this person and help them grow and help them find the spot that's going to be a good fit for them. That's not within your company. Like they should be somewhere else.
And yeah, I mean, listen, we were able, I mean, I started this podcast saying we're down a few heads, and, you know, we were able to work through this, and the person found another role. And I'm not complaining about this. I'm just saying it's just very different than what you were saying about your staff member who's ready to jump on replicating work that they had just done versus being like, well, you know, it's not important enough to really focus as much time. And I'm like, yes, it is. You know, if we did 1 hour per day, 5 days a week, that's 5 hours. And over the course of 4 weeks, 6 weeks, you know, we can have 3 people do it and split it up. And here we go. You know, like it doesn't have to be someone doing something for 5 days straight that just is mind numbing. So
it's understanding what you need and then getting people who fill that, not just the skill sets, but the values.
So a big part of this story was also how controlling the CEO was, right? That the CEO had ideas and the company and people would have to kind of jump when he's focusing on this one time, and then he'd get bored of it and focus on this other thing. Again, that all seems natural to me, but apparently can create with bad intentions or management or communication, a toxic environment. But also the lack of trust that exists for a lot of entrepreneurs, you know, like well, I could let you do it, but you're not going to do it to my expectations or the way that I want or the way that I like. And so do it again. Never mind. I'll just take care over and do it for you. I think a lot of us fall into this trap of either being too controlling or not really trusting that the people will do it, or not really empowering people to do it, because frankly, we just don't like what they're doing. We want them to do it our way and they're not. How much do you think that holds entrepreneurs back? And if you want to be more specific, AKA me.
Well, one of the things I struggle the most with is actually getting people to come up with more ideas that are different, that are new.
You're breaking up. Oh, we just lost your cell phone.
Okay. Now it's got to balance it and press record. And we're good.
Okay, so you were saying.
Okay. What was I saying?
I don't remember. It was so glitchy. It was hard to hear.
You're talking about breaking.
Controlling.
You're following
just the amount of control that we want and have. You know, so the question was, do you think that holds us back as entrepreneurs? Just how controlling we are.
I think for the most part, yes. But I think it doesn't mean you just go and you give everything to your team. Like, I think there's a reason why you've had some success, especially when you're a first-time entrepreneur and you're doing everything yourself, and then you hire somebody and they don't do it your way. They could feel like there's a noose around their neck and they have to do it only one way, and there's no creativity and room to grow. So yes, but at the same time, a lot of your best ideas can come from the people on your team. And I love being willing to break things and have people try things that don't work. One of the biggest things I get into with Alex as he's trying to become a bigger leader for Toronto Dance Salsa is throwing people into the ring. Like, we have our process. We have our system. You come to a level 1 salsa class. Here's what you're going to learn and teach. Great. There's a new instructor who's on their path up. Throw them into one class. Just see how they do. Like, it's not going to be a fantastic experience, but they also need to get in there and do it. And I always have to remind them how much he sucked when he did it. Like, I threw him in. Why I love Alex is because he said yes when he wasn't ready. I was like, okay, if you're willing to step up, then I'll help you and I'll mentor you. Let's go. Right? He sucked. Alex, and I have to remind Alex, you were brutal. When you came in, you sucked. And listen, he was coming in from teaching like 5 minutes of a class to now having to teach an hour overnight. And I surprised him the day up. Like, we're driving to the class, and now he's got to go from teaching 5 minutes to an hour times 3. So 15 minutes. Now he's got to teach 3 hours. So I expect him to suck. It's not going to suck so hard that it's going to disappoint the clients. Like, if it got to that point, I could step in. Like, if he fainted or something, or
he threw up all over the floor.
You're so nervous.
Yeah, if something happened, then I could always step in and do it. But it's letting people. I like co-creating. I want to co-create. So I'll teach you, like when somebody's coming on new, I'll teach you how we do it. And then I want to co-create because I want you to inject your awesomeness into the process, because all I care about is I want to create an emotional experience that gets results for people. So maybe you have ideas that can be better than what I have. So co-create. I mean, Fanta has this process. Fanta's got a good way of doing things. It works. And then now how can we make it better? Like, what ideas do you have, XYZ person? Alex, you're Alex coming on board. Hopefully comes with new ideas.
Oh, so many. But so many.
But part of that is hiring the right people, right? Like, you're pumped that Alex is coming with new ideas. He's better at the thing than you are. And so you might have to teach him just culture of how we deal with clients or how we follow up with people. And maybe he sends an email, but it's supposed to be, a handwritten note that gets mailed and sent by a, Englishman on a donkey. Like, that's the Fanta process. Great. But then there's fitting into what Fanta does, right? And maybe like every morning at 5, the company meets at Orange Theory and does its crazy 3-hour workouts. Like there may be some Fanta specific things that he needs to learn, and how many of those are non-negotiable for you. But ideally, he's bringing a skill set that it does not exist or is in limited capacity right now. And that's what you want for all your people. They're bringing something that they're going to bring to the table and add more value. And so you should listen to them, because they probably have a better way of doing it than you do.
Yeah.
Like, does it benefit the client? Is it good? And is it worth even testing? Like, even if I don't like it, if Ray comes in with a thumbnail and says, I really want to do this thumbnail, I think it'll work. He comes with like video ideas. I think I want to do a new intro. Like, okay, I don't think that's going to work, but let's try it. I'm happy. I'd love to be proved wrong. Because if I'm wrong, then that's scale. If I'm wrong, it's scalable. Like, if your process is actually wrong and somebody comes in and says, I think this is a better way to do it, and you scale that across all your marketing, all your campaigns, all your projects, all your customers, that's massive leverage. You want to be wrong. Mm-hmm. So what's a small way to test it? Now, most of the times I'm actually right? Because I have experience. But I'm willing to do a small test to be proven wrong, to see what happens. And it gives them flexibility and freedom so that they don't feel like they're just trapped in a box the whole time. Right? Like, if one of your guys says, hey, I want to run this ad for TDS, as long as it's not totally off brand, right? We're not doing something against our values or something. Great. Go test it. Try it. Show me that it works. That's it.
So do you think any of the things that we talked about today, hiring the wrong, being too controlling or being perceived as, mean, or not, creating a toxic work environment or anything like that, do you think any of us should really be even worried about this? Because the reason why it struck me is because I was like, I think this has become commonplace. I think, like, I was so polarized by being like trying to make excuses for the entrepreneur and trying to actually say like these employees are being ridiculous. But at the same time, I'm like, no, like, clearly these employees have something, like there's something more to this. There's something. So I was so pulled in both directions that I was like, I don't even know how to talk this out on this podcast. Clearly, if you've listened to this podcast, I don't know how to talk it out, but I feel like this is something that we will have to address as entrepreneurs at a certain point in our growth.
Care about your people.
Some of us don't really care about people that much, though, or certain people that much.
You have to. That's the bottom line for this company. Are the employees complaining too much and being ridiculous? Probably. There's probably still a good chunk of them, and they're so happy to now throw their CEO down and make it a public thing. That's a losing mindset too. And is the CEO wrong and screw? Yes, great. Everybody's in the fault. Awesome. Now, what do you do as an entrepreneur to make yourself better? You have to care about your people. Mm-hmm. You're never going to win if you don't care about the people. So you have to think about, is this a toxic environment for one person might be the best thing that somebody else needs. Like, if you're going to Orange Theory and somebody's yelling at you, I mean, there's different instructions. Somebody's like, Mark, get off your fat ass and push the gear, like whatever, right? He's like, this is the greatest thing of all time. And other people's like, this person's berating me, right? great. But for somebody else, that's the most toxic thing ever.
What I've learned actually is that really physically strong women coaches yelling at me is the most motivating thing for me. If it's a dude, I'm like, I just go like, why are you yelling at me? And if it's not someone, whether it's male or female, not yelling at me, I'm just like, whatever. But out of the matrix, that combination is just like, yeah, okay, let's go. I got to do this. Right. Okay.
But for some other people, that would be the worst, most toxic class of all time. Like, why can't this person understand me and hug me and meditate with me and guide me slowly through this with encouraging words and lavender scents? Like and for you, that'd be like the worst environment of all time. So that's fine, but it has to start with the intent that you care. Like the person coming in to teach that class has to care about the people in the class. They have to care about the people in the class. If you're teaching people, if you're a CEO, you've got people you're responsible for, you have to care about them. If you're a father, you have to care about your kids, right? Like you have to care about your people. Then is it a good values fit or not? Maybe not. You should move on with that person if it's not a good values fit. The employees should have moved on a lot sooner from this guy. Instead of focusing so much on like bringing him down and telling, putting his name to the mud, you're just living in negativity. Move on, find a better company. And the CEO should have cared more about his people, and now he's facing the repercussions.
Awesome.
That's it for this week.
All right.
Thank you for listening.
We appreciate you.
Safe travels.
And believe. I'm coming home. I come home today. Get to see my wife. Get to see the dogs. I don't know if you saw my post yesterday. I was walking, my morning Instagram post. I'm walking outside, and I was saying, I'm making my way to Vid Summit today, right? So I'm making my way, and then I started singing the cheer song, "In the world today takes everything you've got," and then I paused myself and said, "No, it doesn't." What a negative song that is most of the time. Wouldn't you like to get away? It's like the whole thing is, I love the like, sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. That's great. But like, it's basically a place that you go to complain.
It's
like
escapism from the life.
It's basically, exactly. And to go, but not just escapism, to go somewhere else. Like watching League of Legends can be escapism. To go somewhere where you can all just complain together to escape. That's ridiculous.
Welcome to
cheers.
The 80s, middle class, just for the masses, right? That's what that was about.
That's not just 80. That's still 2019. Most people.
Do you know that that's actually a full song? Like it's a full song, and the second and third verse are even more depressing than those ones?
I didn't know that, but I buy that. I believe it. I mean, I disagree with the premise of that entire song, and I'm frustrated that I was singing it, and it was one of the piano pieces that I loved playing when I was a kid. Mark's looking it up now.
Like the full one, if you go to the full lyrics. Okay, so verse 2, ready? All those nights when you got no lights, the check is in the mail, and your little angel hung the cat up by its tail, and your third fiance didn't show. Fine. Roll out of bed, Mr. Coffee's dead, the morning's looking bright, and you ran off to Europe and didn't even write, and your husband wants to be a girl, glad there's a place in the world. There you go.
The best part is
the song that they used.
Being with people who know your name is amazing. Having a place where you belong, yes. But like, to go there because you're just complaining about your life together is ridiculous. And it's funny how you sing along. I'm singing along to songs that you know. It's like, wait a minute, what am I even singing? These lyrics are ridiculous. It's like fundamentally against. So I caught myself. So the IG story is I'm singing a song, making a way in the world today takes everything you got. Like, no, it doesn't. Anyway, I'm off to Vid Summit today. Day 2, let's go. All right.
I love it.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time, and appreciate all the tech issues that you dealt with us today. Podcast, guests, listeners, audience, Believe Nation, something to prove. If you guys want to see last week's episode where we talked about how to live with no regrets, Check the video right there next to us. Continue to believe, and we'll see you there.
And on this week's episode, we talk about
a genius regret strategy.
Ooh, and why Mark shouldn't let himself off the hook or talk in third person.